Welcome back to the saga of Petalsoft, my new Flowercore Island in Animal Crossing New Horizons. Today I'll be building my ultimate flower breeding garden on this brand new island and sharing my methods and vision for this process. This is truly an important step for Petalsoft because this island is all about flowers. And if you like flower management as much as I do, I think you'll find this Let's Play super relaxing and meditative. In this series, I am documenting the journey of my island with a blend of storytelling, real-time gameplay, creative process outlining, and hopefully a dose of playfulness and relaxing vibes. I invite you to come along while I stave off Animal Crossing burnout with a return to the pixelated earth and the joys of simulated gardening. To set the stage, this is day 4 in Island Time, and this day was so robust and eventful that I split it into 2 chapters. In Chapter 4, we had a super busy day taking care of island business and hunting for our first 3 villagers, but Chapter 5 marks the beginning of the core element of this playthrough, which is cultivating every single flower breed in the game. I streamed the events of day 4 with my community live on Twitch, but after stream, I set my sights on the gigantic project of turning the untamed land into a giant flower breeding factory. The fact that the time of day was nearing sunset is an added bonus, I think. I could really get into character as resident representative, immersed in the process of digging and planting the dozens and dozens of flower seeds I scavenged from treasure islands. It helped create this whimsical sense of urgency, racing against the clock to use all of the daylight. It also just made for a peaceful and aesthetic environment for getting lost in the process, because we all know how gorgeous the sunset lighting is in New Horizons. From my earliest days of playing this game, I have been such a fan of flower management. Obviously, so much so that I based the entire concept for this island around it. While I was working on my last island, I knew that this was the direction I wanted for my next reset. I started building a Pinterest board months ago, saving a lot of quick breeding guides and breeding setup diagrams. Even though I've done plenty of flower breeding on my previous islands, I still watch tons and tons of flower guides and tutorials on YouTube to prep and ponder how I wanted to set up everything on this new island. I've started with 10 of every type of flower seed, and after thinking it over for a while, I ended up deciding I would create sections that were roughly 10 tiles in size, 5 flowers in checkerboard format with spaces for hybrids to breed. The plants I didn't end up needing for the breeding sections, I just dumped randomly along the riverbank by Nook's Cranny to add a little vibrancy to the island. Keep in mind, this is day 4, so I don't yet have access to fencing or signage to mark and label everything. The first section I made was for my white roses to breed purple roses, which is the first of many complicated steps in ultimately getting the blue rose to breed. You can tell by my incredibly sloppy attempt to indicate that this is step 1 in the blue rose path that I quickly needed to come up with something different. I decided to just make simple custom designs with colored blocks, and I laid down rows on the ground behind each garden section. The color block behind each section indicates which color I'm trying to grow there, because when you have so many different flowers breeding simultaneously, it can get pretty unorganized pretty quickly. Things definitely got more complicated when I started considering hybrid paths that had multiple steps. For example, the green mum can be acquired by breeding 2 yellow mums, but they can't just be any regular yellow mum, oh no. The yellow mums that bloom from seeds won't do it. Instead, you have to breed hybrid yellows, indistinguishable from regular seed yellows, and then those hybrids have a small chance of breeding a green. It's simple enough when you're just planting your first flowers and breeding your first few hybrids, but once the flowers really start spawning, it can be pretty easy to forget which yellows are the original from seeds and which are your hybrids. So I marked this section here with an H where I wanted to grow yellow hybrids, and I'm going to leave an empty space right in front of it where I will eventually try breeding green mums. My intention is to move the hybrid yellows to this second section as soon as they breed, keeping all my hybrid yellows together so I know which ones they are. I also got a kick out of making a custom code with just a giant ugly H because it reminded me of a specific episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where the character Charlie puts a hornet's nest in a box and just puts a big H on it so that everybody knows it's hornets. I realize there's nothing funny about that out of context, but if you've seen the show, you know. Purple mums also have a chance of breeding a green mum, and you get purple mums from breeding white seed mums together, which I think is one of the less intuitive breeding results in the game's fake flower science. Like, I'm pretty sure I just discovered that on accident on my first island, and who would really think that 2 whites would give you a purple? I definitely had a method in mind here when I started organizing the sections of our garden, but it was by no means symmetrically perfect or anything. I kept laying out sections and planting until I hit the beach, and then just kind of started again at the back of my garden, which is along this riverbank, putting down more sections. I tried to keep flower types together for the most part, but there were certainly moments where I was like, oops, I forgot about that color that I need to breed. There are 52 types of flowers, I think, 52 in total in the game, so that's a lot to keep track of, which is an organizational challenge that I really like. I mean, I started this island knowing that it was going to be a really soothing and fascinating activity that would just kind of scratch my brain in a particular way. I kept looking back at this guide constantly to make sure I was setting up all the sections I needed to get all potential hybrids. I will say that as many times as I consulted this guide, and as much flower breeding as I've done on previous islands, I still made a lot of mistakes, especially with the multi-step hybrids. Like with rarer breeds like the green mum or purple pansy, which require you to breed a specific hybrid first, and then breed that hybrid with another flower. I can confess that well into this playthrough, there were a few times that I was like, oh, I'm not even blending the right 2 flowers here. In retrospect, I probably could have gotten like way more insanely precise and methodical with it. I could have taken the number of hybrids that exist in total and then taken some grid paper and plotted out exactly how many tiles it would take to have dedicated breeding space for each one, and also walkways for getting around the flowers. I could have gotten real mathy with it. And I know there are definitely guides out there for how to do that at a more intense level. But at the end of the day, I'm not quite that intense of a person. But it's still cool to think about. As it stands, I'm pretty comfortable with a slightly sloppy but still organized way of managing things. And after all, these are the early days of taming our deserted island. Story-wise, our resident representative is just out here clearing the wilderness and doing the best she can, darn it. It's also impossible to control the amount of available space we have since we don't have terraforming yet. So the rivers and the cliffs, they are where they are, and we just work around them. So all of this is to say, this is by no means a perfect model for flower breeding. It's my interpretation of the knowledge I researched, and it is filled with quirks and imperfections. I can share with you 2 of my personal favorite flower tutorials that are here on YouTube if you're interested in that kind of information. There is Become a Flower Pro by Mad Curious and the Ultimate Flower Breeding Guide by Twilight Fairy X. I can put those both in the description as well. The game has been out for 4 years now, so there are tons of videos that will give you all the info, but these 2 I think are the most thorough and well explained. One thing I solidified in my mind during this process is that I think it's important to embrace mess and imperfection, and above all, freeing yourself from the demanding confines of aesthetic. This world is sort of dominated by social media. We're constantly exposed to impeccably curated things that belie the human effort underneath. There's content for everything, even the most mundane things like packing a purse or cleaning your house or even drinking water. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. It's cool to have entertainment, and it's cool that people can turn boring things into art, but it can create some distorted expectations in our minds. Yes, everything you do has the potential to be aesthetic and a sort of perfect, elegant act. But realistically, time and energy are finite, and there's no way we can seek that level of perfection in every single thing. The process of building this garden was joyful, but it was time-consuming. There were definitely things I could have done to make it even more precise and pretty, but there's a cost-benefit analysis we do in our minds when choosing our shortcuts. My aim for this video and all the videos in this series is to share my gameplay for what it truly is: play. Play was our earliest form of learning as children, and I think it's so meaningful for adults to reconnect with that sense of playfulness for our mental well-being. Play is a safe space for experimenting with thoughts and actions that we can take with us into real life. When I catch myself being overly critical of how I play, whether it's not being efficient or not having a perfect aesthetic, I realize it's a low-stakes way to confront and analyze some of my own toxic thought patterns. Like, if I can do that kind of mindful work in a game, I can take it with me and use it other places. And I think that's a really cool and important aspect of play. I know I went kind of wide with it there to explain why my garden isn't perfect, but that's the kind of stuff I get out of playing Animal Crossing. And I do have a background in education and social emotional learning, so I think about this stuff a lot. I love this game because it allows you to get lost in a world of imagination and exploration, and it's kind of isolated from the demands of the daily grind. You can play with aesthetic, you can experiment with efficiency, and you can even dance with the dangerous mistress known as perfectionism. But at the end of the day, it is just a game. It really offers me a relaxing space to be alone with my thoughts, free from rigid rules, and that act of letting go is actually really important for mental health. The whole logic behind meditation is that letting go allows us to recenter, and it makes us stronger and more mindful to face the world. I really think gaming's not just about escapism, it can be a form of mindfulness. There was definitely a part of me that wondered if anyone would be interested in a video of something as arduous as speed building a flower breeding garden, because I know it's not as pretty or visually interesting as, say, a decorating video. But I personally really enjoy the meditative act of flower management in this game, and I hope this video provides whoever's watching with some of that same calming energy. I did reach a point where I got a little fatigued, so I didn't quite finish the entire garden in a single play sitting. The next time I logged onto the game, when I fired up Island Time Day 5 of the Petalsoft adventure, I was refreshed and so was the in-game daylight, so I was able to add the last few sections. I'm so excited to have it built and to continue playing through the days of building my island up, because now we have a really exciting daily task to add to our to-do list. Every day we get to come and check on our garden, anticipating the magic of which hybrids will sprout and embracing the meditation of watering our flowers each day. The next chapter of Petalsoft will be coming soon, so be sure to subscribe to get notified when it comes out, and let me know in the comments what kind of stuff you'd like to see in future chapters. I expect each video in the series to be a little different, so I'd love to know what you want to see more or less of. I do have a lot of passion for and knowledge of mindfulness practices, so let me know if you want to circle back to those topics in future videos. Thanks so much for watching.